We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your neighbor, your significant other. Share it across your social media platforms. Welcome in. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your comments and your phone calls. Later in the show, we got a college football playoff update. Not too much of an update, but they did meet in Dallas, Texas. The 10 FBS Commissioners, well, there was 9 of them there. Jim Phillips joined virtually. Then there was Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick. He was at the meeting. We have a little bit of an update on that. We're going to talk about, again, we had an episode this morning on what Mark Coyle said, the athletic director of the University of Minnesota. Everybody that knows Mark Coyle, that has been around Mark Coyle, that knows his personality, they know his cadence to how he talks. Anybody who spent any time around Mark Coyle has the same, pretty much the same response that I had when they read what he said to Marcus Fuller when it came to further conference realignment and the growth of the Big Ten. It was a holy smokes response from me, from everybody that I know. People outside of the University of Minnesota, most of you in the chat room are probably scratching your head and saying, yeah, Greg, there's not much there. I would respectfully disagree because of who said it. Mark Coyle, he does not talk that way. He does not talk about these things in public. He doesn't even talk about these things in private. Why did he say something? We're going to get into it a little bit deeper than we did on our episode. If you missed our episode 298, please go watch it. But we're going to hit it again on this live show because it's important. Another thing, the pressure now is on you. PATC community, the pressure is on you. You have to make the picks now. I made them yesterday. We'll go through them again. Against the spread, week 1. But now you all are going to vote. People who are present in the chat, you're going to have the opportunity to vote what team you're taking against the spread. And we'll see how you guys do against me. The PATC community went 1-3 in week 0. Greg the Cooler went 1-3 in week 0. But this is week 1. I made my picks yesterday. I'll go through them again. But today, you get the opportunity to vote. And whoever has more than 50% of the vote, that is your play on the game. Jared Jones, good afternoon. Mr. Buckeye, the pressure is on you. Bruce Harris, a boomer. Mr. Sooner, the pressure is on you. Patrick, Mr. Baylor, the pressure is on you. Kyler Visser, checking in, must be big. Every show is big at Peek Around the Corner. Bill G, thanks for coming on in. Renee, sources, it's Wings Wednesday from the fat guy from Texas. That sounds like a good thing here from the fat guy of Minnesota. Thanks for coming on in, Renee. I appreciate it. Matt Neeson is in the house. Go Cyclones. Matt, the pressure's on you. Ryan Brooks, the pressure is on you. Michael Uten, the pressure is on you. Let's go week 1, Scott P. The pressure is on you. Will the Thrill. Let's go, Michael Pats. Provo Cougar fan. Get the popcorn. The Holy Smokes Theater is open. Gary Pacharis. We are Penn State. We are Penn State. NBC primetime. Penn State Nittany Lions versus the West Virginia Mountaineers. Hey, Mac, howdy, y'all. Let's go. Big 12 and Holy Rival Show. Let's go. Thanks for coming on in, Mr. Nathan Brown. Appreciate it. DS One Shot. SEC fan back to give y'all more love. Howdy. Thanks for coming on in, Mr. Bulldog. I appreciate it. Yeah, I get it. I know. I saw this. Cam Rising's not expected to play. They're going to be playing their backup quarterback and their third string. Utah U fans, please call in. Let me know what you're thinking after that report coming from Pete Thamel and others earlier this afternoon. Cameron Rising not playing tomorrow night. I already took Utah. So I'm guessing the PATC community now believes they have the advantage. Now most of you are going to jump on the Florida Gators when we put the poll out here during the live show. We'll see what you all do. Maybe it's a trap. Jared Jones, Nick Flynn, thanks for coming on in. Jim Reese, NRG, TXN, Illini. Wow, Penn State by 7. Okay. First of all, we're gonna hold off on you all taking your picks here against the spread. We're gonna get to that. First thing I want to do quickly is to talk about the conference, the playoff update. Not a whole lot there. It kind of reconfirms what we have been saying here for the last week. Heather Dinich reported college football playoff meeting just broke. As expected, no major decisions made on any possible format changes, revenue distribution, or TV, especially as the realignment waiting game continues. Heather Dinich then tweets out, regarding realignment, Executive Director Bill Hancock said, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait till the dust settles before making any decisions about how that might affect the college football playoffs. It would be premature. Repeatedly in response to several questions, as we anticipated. Our live show here yesterday at Peek Around the Corner, we said all these decisions are going to be delayed until the dust settles on what happens with the ACC and the Pac-12 and all that, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Heather Dinich then tweeted out, Hancock said there'll be a $3,000 stipend for participating college football playoff families as is currently. That's how it's been for a while. In the 12-team format for each playoff game. This will be available for the 125 players, families on each team. So that hasn't changed at all because there is a $3,000 stipend for every player within the college football playoffs right now, the 14 invitational. But when it expands to 12 teams, 11 games, still, every single playoff game that student athlete is involved in, that student athlete gets a $3,000 stipend for his family to travel, to go to the game. Heather Dinich also said, Hancock said the atmosphere was cordial. In spite of all the moving teams, he said there was a lot of respect in the room, that there wasn't a need to address the elephant in the room. Said Jim Phillips didn't give any update on possible ACC expansion. And then the 6+6 model, Heather said, and this is important, we've talked about this over and over again here at Peek Around the Corner, if the 6+6 model in the 12-team format ever does change in the current contract, i.e. for 2024 and 2025. The presidents and chancellors on the CFP Board of Managers has to unanimously agree to it. There has to be an 11-0 vote to change the current 6+6 model. I'll get to that in a second. Bill Hancock says, this is from Ross Dellinger, Bill Hancock says commissioners will have to wait till the dust settles on realignment for format changes. Hancock says commissioners did discuss format changes, including a change from 6+6 to 5+7. Ross Dellinger then went on in another tweet and said, I'm paraphrasing it, but there was not a deep conversation in changing it. It was just talked about a little bit. Now, again, this is the most important tweet. Most important tweet. If the 6+6 model in the 12-team format ever does change in the current contract, the presidents and chancellors on the board of managers have to unanimously agree to it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that means that we're going to have a 6+6 model for the next 2 years unless the G5 conferences, the 5 G5 conferences are willing to deal, to say, okay, we'll go from 6+6 to a 7+5 or 5+7, however you want to say it. I guess 5+7. We're willing to go 6+6 to a 5+7, where there's 5 conference champions get automatic bids and 7 at-large bids. But what do we get in return? If the Big Ten and the SEC especially really want to change this up to go to 7 at-large bids, if Notre Dame really wants that 7th at-large bid, then they're going to have, for 2024, 2025, they're going to have to come and meet the G5 conferences. And G5 will get something of assurance for 2026 and beyond. Or the Power 4 conferences say, nah, we'll just stick with 6+6 for the next 2 years. And then in 2026, we can change this format. We don't need your unanimous vote. And anything is possible. So this is what's going on. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Hard negotiations. And it was going to be all just about 2026, except now we have a little bit of an unraveling going on where it looks like the Pac-12 might completely disappear, where we go from 10 FBS conferences to 9 FBS conferences. Therefore, it might change from 6+6 to 5+7. But again, in doing so, if the motivation is really there for Sankey, for Petiti, if it's really there for Yormark, if it's really there, if they want 7 at-large bids for the next 2 years, for 24 and 25, what are you going to give the G5 conferences? Are you going to give them some assurances that in 2026 that they will still have access to the college football playoffs at the highest level of competition? Are you willing to do that right now? And I'm talking to Greg Sankey. I'm talking to Tony Petiti. I'm talking to Brett Yormark. I'm talking to Jim Phillips. So there's a lot at play here. One other thing. If you are a G5 school, why on earth would you vote to change it? You wouldn't change it. This is going to be 6+6, 6+6 for 2024, 2025. Unless you get some assurance in 2026 and beyond that it will be at least a 5+7. If I was Oresco, if I was one of the G5 commissioners, I would be willing to deal. I would be willing to go 5+7 for 2024 and 2025. As long as I get playoff access in a 5+7 or a 5+11, if it goes to 16, whatever, I'd be willing to throw in the 6+6 to get a 5+7 if I'm assured playoff access from 2026 and beyond. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we've been saying this for months at Peek Around the Corner. The great gold rush of 2026, it does not have to be a unanimous decision. The Power 4, the Autonomy 4 conferences could go on their own, create their own media contract, do their own thing. Heck, SEC could do it. Just go on their own. Big Ten could go on. Now, that's not good for the sport. I don't expect that to happen, at least for the next 20 years, like I've been saying. And you are going to get one more thing. I want to make this perfectly clear. You're going to get a lot of articles. You're going to get a lot of people talking about a Power 2 going off on their own because that's the leverage that those two conferences are playing. And of course they're going to play it. They have the most chips on the table. They're going to push their interests. You're going to get article after article after article, podcasters talking about a power two. They are going to use that threat to break away, to get what they want. And I would argue what they want is heavier revenue because they're bringing in the most eyeballs. Right now, currently, in this current college football playoff contract, 80% of the revenue goes to the Power 5 conferences. 20% of the revenues go to the G5 conferences. And the argument is that the Power 5 conferences bring in the most eyeballs, obviously. They bring in the most value, obviously. So sometime down the road, it could be to where the SEC and the Big Ten says, you know what? We should get a little bit more money than the ACC and the Big 12 out of the playoff distribution. They're going to push their chips. They're going to push their influence. Now, I am not a believer at all, at least for the next 20 years. You're going to be hearing me say that a lot. There is not going to be a power two in regards to limiting access to the playoffs. I don't believe that's not good for the sport. Greg Sankey doesn't want that. Tony Petitti does not. That is not what's going on, in my belief, with the people we've talked to. But they're going to push their influence, their strength, in regards to negotiations, which are happening starting right now today in Dallas, Texas. Everybody right now has leverage. 2024, 2025, G5, you got to come to them if you want 7 at-large bids for 2024-25. And the G5 conferences, I think you should use the leverage you have today and make sure you have access for tomorrow, starting in 2026 and beyond. Hopefully you all understand what I just put out there. Now, I'll get to your comments and phone calls if you want to talk about anything college football expansion updates. I want to get to Mark Coyle. Mark Coyle. Question and answer with Gophers Athletic Director Mark Coyle on the growing Big Ten, his future in NIL. And I talked about this in the episode earlier today. Check it out, episode 298. Gophers Athletic Director Mark Coyle understands as part of college sports when coaches, administrators are mentioned as possible candidates of other programs. I'm not going to go through this article like I did in the episode. If you want, go ahead and watch episode 298. I'm just going to hit two parts of this article. The first part, yes, Mark Coyle was a finalist for the USC job. Okay? Big Ten realignment news dominated the offseason. How is this good for the Gophers? And are there some disadvantages with it too? Mark Coyle answered the question, basically saying there are 18 teams. There's still only going to be one Big Ten championship. We talk about postseason opportunities, whether it be in football, in the bowl, or other sports, postseason, NCAA championship play. We want to make sure that we are relevant. I take great pride in our program, the Directors Cup finishing in the top 10, 11 every year. We continue to do that. We continue to be relevant on the national level. But there's no doubt the Big Ten just got harder and a lot more competitive. At the end of the Q&A, Mark Coyle was asked this question. Big Ten realignment and growth. When does it stop, in your opinion? This was yesterday, by the way. This is not a week old. This Q&A was yesterday. The answer from Mark Coyle. I don't think we're done. I had no inside scoop, which I find as a deflective statement. I mean, look, he's in all the meetings, right? I don't think we're done. That's just Mark Coyle's perspective. I don't think conference realignment's done. And why I'm making a big point of this. Why I'm making a big point of this, and everybody around me who knows Mark Coyle and how he works, this is a big deal for him to say this in public. Again, Big Ten realignment and growth, when does it stop in your opinion? I don't think we're done. I don't think conference realignment's done. And look, I made the phone calls. I talked with BTM and his associates. If Mark Coyle believed that the Big Ten, now this is us speculating, okay? But I'm gonna make this in pretty strong terms here. This is an educated speculation. We've broken stories at the University of Minnesota. We know the athletic department. We know Mark Coyle. When Mark Coyle, I'm just going to say speculation for now to make you all happy in the chat. When he says, I don't think we're done, I don't think conference realignment's done, that's not how Mark Coyle would put it if he believed that the Big Ten wasn't done and that something was going to happen 8 years from now, 7 years from now, 6 years from now, 5 years from now. When he says, I don't think conference realignment's done, he's not talking 8, 7, 6, 5 years from now. When Mark Coyle, in our strongly held belief, says, I don't think we're done, I don't think conference realignment's done, I don't think we're done to the question of Big Ten realignment and growth, that to me is Mark Coyle is signaling to everybody that he's in the room and there's a daily, weekly, monthly bubbling up at the surface of potential scenarios down the road, and the road isn't that long for more Big Ten growth, i.e. ACC schools. Again, the difference in response to my episode of this morning and the difference in response to probably this live show will probably be the same, and it's drastic. For those who do not know Mark Coyle, and many of you don't, and to those who do know Mark Coyle, and there's many people that I know who do, the response to this and how Mark Coyle answered this question is drastic. It's about as wide as the Grand Canyon. Because for those who do not know Mark Coyle, do not know how he runs press conferences, don't know how cautious he is, he's a manager. He doesn't make news. He's very careful with every word he chooses. If you don't know Mark Coyle, this means pretty much absolutely nothing. If you do know Mark Coyle, this means a whole hell of a lot. So, even though this is college football's peak around the corner, it's a national college football show. From my perspective, as a person who has broken news on Minnesota 247 about the University of Minnesota sports as Mark Coyle was the athletic director, i.e. 2016, i.e. Tracy Claeys is going to get fired in 216 hours from now, countdown clock. No, we said 212 hours. It happened in 216 hours. When we broke the news that PJ Fleck was going to be target number 1 and he had 72 hours to decide after Claeys was going to get fired, we said this on December 25th, 2016. We know the tight ship that Mark Coyle runs. He does not leak. We were able to break the story, well, because we can't tell you how we did it. But it had nothing to do with Mark Coyle himself. I'm just saying, when Mark Coyle says something like, I don't think we're done. I don't think conference realignment's done from the Big Ten for the Big Ten, by the Big Ten. That means a lot. And I wanted to give you my perception of that. Okay, so now I just wanted to hit that one more time, because I think we're going to go back. I think in the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to be going back to those Mark Coyle statements. Now, before we get to your comments and phone calls and everything, we got to get to the PATC Community's votes on these games. Game number 1. Here we go. Here we go. Does TCU cover the minus 20.5 point spread? If you say yes, you say no. The vote starts now. You have 1 minute to vote. 1 minute to vote. Does TCU cover the 20.5 point spread versus Colorado? The time's a-ticking. Right now, the votes are heavy on TCU. $20 more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2. We're ending the poll. 76% say TCU is going to cover minus 20.5 points. So the PATC Community and Greg the Cooler agrees on game 1. We took TCU last night. Here we go. Here's the second game. The second play against the spread. It's Massachusetts plus 35.5 or Auburn minus 35.5. Starting the poll, does Auburn cover the 35.5 point spread starting now? Does Auburn cover the 35.5 point spread versus UMass? Right now, it's 74%. No, Auburn does not cover. That means UMass would cover. Right now, it's a heavy vote total against Auburn from covering that point spread. Finisher 3 times says, how's UMass going to score? I don't know. Tyson Pumishan looked pretty good in week 1 against New Mexico State. We're going to end the poll in 15 seconds. We're ending it again. 76% of the vote goes strongly for UMass to cover the 35.5 again. The PATC Community agrees with Greg the Cooler. What's going on? What is going on? Here comes Boise State and Washington. Does Washington cover the 14.5 point spread? The poll starts now. Washington Huskies, Boise State Broncos. Right now the vote is about 70% yes, Washington does cover the spread. It's a little bit closer vote. The first three games, PATC Community went heavy on TCU minus 20.5, heavy on UMass plus 35.5. Washington still has strong support. We got about 10 seconds left. $50 votes are in. We are ending the poll right now. That is 71%. 71% takes Washington, minus 14.5. So far, the PATC Community has agreed with Greg the Cooler on all three picks in week one. Now, what does that mean? Are you guys as incompetent as your host, or has your host finally turned the corner from Greg the Cooler to Greg the Heater? Here we go. Now this is going to be a little traumatic inside the PATC community. This one I think is going to divide us more here. This is going to be very, 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 very interesting. Does Penn State cover the 20.5 point spread? Poll starts now. Does Penn State cover the 20.5 point spread versus the West Virginia Mountaineers? It's in Penn State, NBC, prime time. The vote is close. The vote is close. It's 50-50. We're going to give this, we already have 45 votes. We're going to give this 15 more seconds. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bad. We're ending the poll. 52% said no. West Virginia is the pick for the PATC community. Holy smokes. 52% takes West Virginia plus 20.5, and that is, finally, we have a difference between the community and myself, Greg the Cooler. Let's go to the next game. Let's go to the next game. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. Woo! Does LSU cover the 2.5 point spread? Can the LSU Tigers in Orlando, Florida, against the Florida State Seminoles, does LSU cover the 2.5 point spread? The poll starts now. Go back. 45. Who do I choose? Son of Sick, Florida State is overrated until proven otherwise. Holy smokes. Is that a neutral site game? Kind of, sort of. More votes than LSU covering that spread. I'm a little surprised it's not closer in the voting. We got 10 more seconds. A 10, a 9, an 8, a 7, a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1. Holy smokes. What is the PATC community doing? 66%? 66% takes LSU minus 2.5? You all are crazy. The PATC community has finally flipped. We've got 3 more games left. You guys better improve now. You're falling way behind Peek Around the Corner. Peek Around the Corner has Florida State plus 2.5. Penn State minus 20.5. You guys got West Virginia plus 20.5 and LSU minus 2.5. You guys have all lost your heads. Let's get to the next game. Clemson and Duke. Clemson and Duke. Does Clemson cover the 12.5 point spread? The poll starts now. Does Duke play football? Woo! Man, there's a lot of shots being taken inside the chat room. There's not a lot of Duke Blue Devil love. Ah, boy, you guys. Now you've lost it. Now you've lost it. You started out strong, but now you're slipping, community. You're slipping. The Duke Blue Devils, you're crushing them right now in this voting. Holy smokes. Everybody going on Klubnik. Everybody going on Garrett Riley, the new offensive coordinator. They're going to be real conservative game 1. They're going to be real conservative. 10 more seconds. 5 more seconds. Okay, we're going to end the bloodbath right now. 84%. 84% chooses Clemson to cover the spread. My goodness. Holy smokes. Wow. Okay, we go to the next game. Florida and Utah. I think I'm in trouble. Here we go. We just got news about the Utah quarterback situation. Does Utah cover the 6.5 point spread? The poll starts now. I'm buying Graham Mertz. Kieran is killing me in the chat. This is a close vote. This is a close vote. It could go either way. We might have to look at the Chads. It's a 50-50 after 48 votes. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. We got 15 more seconds. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra time. 14, 13, 12. We still got 50-50. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are in overtime. We need one more vote to settle this. The next vote ends it. There it is, 51-49. 51% says no. Holy smokes. We had to go in overtime with the vote. The PATC community takes Florida minus a plus 6.5. That went to overtime. That's how divided the PATC community was on the Florida-Utah game. That game is Thursday night. We're going to be doing a watch party here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be doing a watch party. We're going to be doing this game, of course. My beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers tomorrow night against Nebraska. But we're going to be watching, reacting in real time to the Utah game, to the Utah-Florida game as well. So join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, this is our last game. This is our last game. Peek Around the Corner community. You know what to do here. You know what to do here. This shouldn't even be in question. I don't want to corrupt the voting. I don't want to put my thumb, I don't want to press my thumb down on the scales of justice. But you all better do the right thing here. This is the last poll. You guys have slipped a lot here in the last 4 games. Let's do this. Does Minnesota cover the 7-point spread? Do the right thing, PATC community. Do the right thing. The poll starts now. Do they cover? After 38 votes, Minnesota has a little bit of an edge. I don't know if there's a whole lot of love for Minnesota in the chat room. There doesn't seem to be much love for the Cornhuskers, though. People are very unsure about this team. Matt Rule's first year. I'm going to give it 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is. 57% of the PATC community took the Gophers -7, and I think you all did that. Honestly, I think you guys were being kind. You didn't want to see the host cry right in front of you. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. You did not want to see me cry. Therefore, you were so kind to me, and you took the Minnesota Golden Gophers -7. So this is the rundown of what you guys, the guys and gals in the PATC community, took for week 1. This is what you did. This is what I did. We both took TCU -20.5. We both took Massachusetts +35.5. We both took Washington -14.5. The PATC community took the West Virginia Mountaineers. Greg the Cooler took Penn State. PATC community took LSU. Greg the Cooler took the Florida State Seminoles. The PATC community lost their minds and took Clemson. Greg the Cooler took the Duke Blue Devils. In overtime, we needed one more vote because it was dead on 50-50. The PATC community, by the thinnest of margins, took the Florida Gators +6.5. Greg the Cooler took Utah -6.5. And we both took the Minnesota Golden Gophers -7. Thank you so much for doing that. We're going to be doing that every week. This is how we talk about the upcoming games. We're going to keep track of our winning percentages. PATC community right now has a winning percentage of 25%. That's not good. However, Greg the Cooler, myself, has a winning percentage of 25%. So we're tied. We'll see what it looks like after week 1. Let's get to your comments, and then we'll hurry up and get to your phone calls, because this has been a long monologue. Cornelius Green, Fowler, and Herb Street will be calling the Florida-Utah game tomorrow night. Oh, I'm excited. Renee says Gophers by whatever that number is, 1 billion. I think you're correct. Bug Eaters cover, Greg. The Bug Eaters cover. Son of Sarek says Gophers by 4. That is still a win. Finisher says Minnesota wins by 10. Richard says the Gophers cover. It's a no-brainer. Immaculate, of course, he goes against my Golden Gophers. Tough Tony, go Gophers. Nebraska straight up. Woo! Wyatt, Ryan coming in. We don't know if Rison is playing. There's been a report out today that Rison is not going to play. The backup quarterback and the dynamic third stringer is going to play for the Utah Utes. It sounds like Rison is out. Utah wins, but barely. I have no idea about the Florida Utes game. Jeff Olson, the evil Badgers in the house, he says this is a Graham Mertz rebirth that we're going to watch and be a witness of tomorrow night. I would be shocked. I would be blown away if I saw that happen. Ryan says, Mertz, Heisman, Greg? Greg, who do you got? South Carolina, North Carolina? I says North Carolina covers. I don't know. I'm staying away from that game. I don't know, man. Was it 2.5? 2.5? I don't know. We'll see. We're going to learn a lot about both teams. We're going to learn about the Tar Heels defense. Have they improved? We're going to learn about Drake May's wide receiving core. Can they get separation? There's a little bit of worry about Tar Heels wide receiving core. Great quarterback, but do they got the guys to get separation? And of course, South Carolina, we'll see. Cameron, thank you so much for your super chat, for your continued generosity to the show. I appreciate you in the chat. Gophers will smash smiley faces Bug Eaters. All right, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. The Tar Heels did lose their OC as well. That's a good point, Karan. Very good point. A field goal will decide the Minnesota-Nebraska game. Georgia's on streaming only Saturday, ESPN Plus. Remember now, SEC signed a magnificent Tier 1 contract, and it starts next year. Within that contract, they're getting paid a whole lot of money, over $300 million for just a handful for the Tier 1 games, a handful of basketball games, and each SEC team has to play one game on ESPN Plus and one game on the SEC network. That's an obligation with every SEC team. So you're going to see this. Georgia is going to play a game on ESPN Plus. Everybody in the SEC is going to play a game on ESPN Plus. The Big Ten, every Big Ten team, of course, has to play a game on the Big Ten network. And there's going to be 8 to 9. There's going to be probably more now, but at least 8 to 9 games on Peacock. Peacock streaming only, right? That's going to cover a lot of teams. Ohio State's going to be on Peacock this year. So this is the new era. Yes, SEC, Big Ten, huge exposure across ESPN, ABC family, and then of course CBS, NBC, NBC, CBS, Fox. But the streaming component is going to be played a more and more major part of these media packages, and you got to do it. You got to play the Thursday night game, the Friday once in a while, streaming on Saturday. If you want big boy money, you got to put your big boy pants on, and you got to play at all sorts of different situations. That's my take on it. Thank you so much, Cameron B, for the super chat. Again, anybody who's new to the channel, please subscribe to this ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. And if you want your comment read and for us to talk about it, make sure you hit that $ donation, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Now we're going to open up the phone lines. You can talk about anything you want. Week 1 games, anything you want. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a watch party here at Peek Around the Corner. Talk about anything you want. Talk about Mark Coyle and his statement. ACC, they haven't made a decision yet. Jack Swarbrick said right before this show came on, he said he doesn't know when the presidents are going to get together and talk about ACC expansion, when they're going to get that call together, but he expects it still to happen. So anything you want to talk about, the meeting in Dallas today about the expanded playoffs, let's open up the phone lines right now. Let's not waste any more time. You know what the number is. It's on the ticker down below the bottom of the screen. It's 763-260-1333. The lines are open right now. Tony says, The Athletic has a fantastic article today about the Big Ten TV guide.
Call from
Nathan Brown.
Nathan Brown from Big 12 Mafia and Holy Rivals. Holy smokes, he's on the line. The floor is yours. What's going on, good man?
Well, first of all, isn't it just fun to start talking football? Can we just start, sort of celebrate that there's actually football games starting and how fun it is, right?
Yeah, we're talking a lot of football now, so that's beautiful. Yeah.
I would not be betting on your over-unders and whatnot, though, Greg. I don't know about some of those votes.
We didn't do any over-unders this week.
No, I'm teasing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I lost an over-under play last week, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't get into that very much. I was just teasing you. So the one thing I want to bring up today is, and this is mostly for people in the ACC area, for the last year, the Pac-12 had to deal with all of this. And so the topics that we're talking about are not new topics. In fact, we've really drilled down and gotten a lot of detail, especially on the PATC theater. Everything that Greg has provided to you guys is spot on. And the reason we can say that with confidence is because we just went through this with the Pac-12. There's literally no difference between what the ACC is going through and what the Pac-12 had to endure. The fact that you have schools that want to leave, that eventually will end up leaving, is not going to change if they get a big check. And that's just something that people have a hard time realizing. We didn't know that last year, but as the Pac-12 disintegrated, we figured that out. It's about exposure. It's about being in the big leagues. It's about perception. And the schools that are really voting no over and over again, the reason they're doing that is they don't want to vote against their own interests. They want to be in the best position for their schools to enter the SEC, the Big Ten, and then whoever's left is going to go to the Big 12. So it angers me a little bit when, Greg, you get a bunch of people that call up and act like you don't know what you're talking about, or the data that you're citing is off the wall, because it's just a copy. You could probably take tweets that you did, and I did in January and February, recopy them now, and they would be the exact same answers.
Well, yeah, I don't mind. You know me, I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I don't mind that at all. In fact, I've learned a lot from the PATC community. The only thing I kind of push back against is that we were making up all the information that we had in regards to the hot bubble of action and all that stuff. Right. And in the PATC community, they understand where I was coming from.
Of course.
The big difference is between the what we just saw in the Pac-12 and what we're seeing in the ACC is the ACC grant of rights goes out to 2036.
That's true.
So we're not going to see, if we do see a quick unraveling, in which I believe there is serious smoke and fire to Florida State setting something up.
Oh, yeah.
But having said that, there's way bigger hurdles to the unraveling of the ACC versus what we saw here in the Pac-12. And I also have to point out, because this has been a change of our reporting here at Peek Around the Corner, and it happened sometime last week. We don't believe that anything that's going on right now in regards to trying to get the no votes to be flipped to yes votes for ACC expansion, we honestly don't believe that has anything to do with the exit ramps of Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson. We did. We thought maybe that was what was going on, where Florida State was negotiating with the ACC to say, oh, you want our no vote to flip to yes vote? That means that you guys have to clear a couple pieces out of the hurdle, out of the way for our exit ramp in a few years. We've been told by 3 different people that's not the case. That's not part of the negotiations. That whether the ACC expands now or not does not affect Florida State's pathway, be it narrow and risky and costly. It does not affect Florida State's pathway out of the ACC. So that's a little bit different than what most people are saying, but we have been told strongly by enough people that would know that that's what we reported last week, and we're doing it this week, that Florida State's not negotiating, we'll vote yes, but you got to do something for us in the exit ramp. That's not what's going on. So
the one thing that people need to keep in mind is that no matter what, until a contract is signed, all the reports that you're seeing and hearing are, again, they're mirrors of what we saw 3-4 months ago. So I would just tell everybody to reserve their final judgments until the contract is either executed or amended or whatever before you start, if people are giving their opinions like they do on Peek Around the Corner, those are valuable as opinions, but until we have an actual signed contract we can report on, none of that has happened. So that's really important for shows like yours and shows like Big 12 Mafia and the Holy Rivals. We want people to make up their own minds, right, Greg? We're not trying to.
No, I'm just reporting. Yeah, I'm just reporting what I've been told, and then the conversations goes from there. It can go in any direction. People can disagree, and again, I've learned a lot from the PATC community, and will continue to learn a lot from them. So I appreciate it.
Well, and I do too, and I just wanted to thank you and thank them for the success that all of the creators out there are doing over the last year. It all started with your show, Greg, and I just want everybody to know Greg is the godfather, as we were with these things, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, leave them a comment, turn on your notifications, and the people that Greg associates with, those are people that you should be paying attention to also. I appreciate the time, Greg. You're great as always.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. Great call by Nathan Brown. Check out his show, Big 12 Rivals. Holy Rival Show. Him and Wild Oot and Monavision, Immaculate, they go on the show. It is a great, great college football YouTube channel. It is fast growing. A lot of great commentary going on over there. Let's get back to the phone call. 763-260-1333. Anything week 1. Greg, how big was the PATC community just before last season? Necromancer Pinball. It was 0 because we started a YouTube channel in August, right before the season. I had no idea how big the channel is now. I don't look at that stuff. But it's bigger than when it was started. We started with 0 in August. And I believe we're over 3,000 subscribers and all that. So I appreciate all of you for joining us. We've had a crazy year. The reason we started this YouTube channel, because I see there's new people in here all the time. We were pushed. We were not pushed. I shouldn't say that. We were asked. We were pushed. People wanted us to open it up. And when the Los Angeles Times did an article on us for breaking the USC story, calling the Big Ten in March. We broke that in March of 2022. We did a 3-month story on it, and then the whole country found out that what we knew, and we did that story on our Twitter account and our X account at Flug Empire. The Los Angeles Times interviewed us 4 different times, did an article on us. It got such a big digital response that they moved that article from the sports page to the front page before the printed newspaper came out. And when that hit, and we knew that was going to hit weeks before we started our YouTube channel. So that article officially came out August 20th of 2022. We were able to start our channel on August 10th, 10 days before that article was going to come out. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, right? But we started the channel, and for 10 days, people wanted me to talk about the USC, how we broke the story, and I kept saying I can't talk about it now. Wait a few more days, because we had an agreement with the Los Angeles Times that they would go with the article first, and then I could start talking about it. So on episode, if you're new to the channel, go to episode 22. All the way back to episode 22, we break it all down, the 3-month breaking of that story.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hawkeye, there's good news out of Iowa City. Cade McNamara is going to play. He's going to be a little bit limited, but they're not going to have him do much. Maybe he doesn't play the whole game, but it looks like he's getting healed up. That is great news for the Iowa Hawkeyes. That is bad news for my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. The floor is yours, good sir.
Well, now we can talk about it. Now I don't mind talking about it. And if we're being honest here, even if he's a little limited, I mean, he's not the most mobile quarterback in the game. This is good practice for the offensive line. Like, you really got to defend this guy. This is Utah State. Okay, fine, whatever. But you cannot let them get in and get to this guy. Not at all. So I think this will be a good test to see how well the line can keep him free and clear, because he's not going to be able to move that much. He's just going to have to sit back there and pick him apart a little bit. But luckily, we've got what's looking to be a pretty stud running back. So
yes,
I think it should be a pretty good balanced offense for them this year. Hopefully, good Lord.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. It's kind of like week to week. Cross your fingers to see how he does.
That's good news for Iowa. That he can even, that means he's healing up, right? So that's good news.
And it's good news for the West too. I mean, just like we want to see Minnesota do well. We want to give you shit, but we want to see Minnesota do well. We want to see Nebraska do well. And if Iowa has all this build up for them, and then their quarterback goes out and it all deflates, that's not good either. So, but one thing I definitely wanted to point out to you, just one little quick thing, I was watching for anything coming out of the college football playoff meetings. I made a little jab after one of Heather Dinch's tweets, and saying that ACC is on the clock, and she threw it right back, saying that they're all on the clock right now. And she was right.
I saw that she did
now
that.
Holding everyone up.
Yeah.
And, that was a pretty good throwback at me. I'm like, okay, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
They are. And the ACC, we get kind of caught up in what this means for the ACC, but what does this mean for everybody else now, too? Now that it is holding up these talks.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that? We haven't really talked much about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's right. When she threw back, everybody's on the clock, because like Yogi Berra says, it's getting late early here. It's getting late early. There needs to be resolution. It goes down to the G5 conferences. They want to know what's going on. Aresco needs to know what's going on. Did you see what Aresco said today? About they have plans just in case SMU leaves the conference.
Yeah, he said he's kicking the tires on Oregon State and Washington State, I do believe.
Yeah, so it's holding up a lot, and it's holding up the deep level negotiations that I believe is going to happen between the G5 commissioners and the Autonomy 4 commissioners if the Pac-12 conference disappears, which let's be honest, there's a great chance that it disappears, right? It's maybe not 100%, but it's almost there. But until we know that for sure, the G4 or the G5 and the Autonomy 4 can't really get into these deep talks. It's everybody's on the clock.
Layer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you kind of wonder who do you think that benefits in the ACC negotiations? I mean, we can kind of say who we think the different parties are, but in terms of pushing them to do a yes vote or pushing them to do a no vote, do you think that there's now added pressure on the ACC as a whole?
I ask me that again. I'm not quite sure what your added pressure, because the playoff committee met today and they couldn't delve into it, so that's more pressure on the ACC.
Yeah, because now your contemporaries, peers, all the other commissioners, everyone is looking at you saying you are holding up business right now.
I mean, I don't think it's more pressure on the schools that are voting no, right?
It might.
In anything, they have a little bit more leverage because of the timing of all this. So I think the pressure would be more on the other ACC schools. That's just my answer. I'm not sure.
I do. I was just kind of curious on that because when she said that, I was being kind of a smart ass.
Yeah.
And then she threw that back, and I'm like, she's right. This is a lot bigger than that. So we'll see how it goes, man. I was just kind of curious what she thought on that. It kind of changed my perspective a little bit.
Yeah. Again, according to Dellinger and Dinich, most of what they talked about, and it didn't sound like they did a deep dive into it, but most of what they talked about was the 6+6 or the 5+7. That probably it's going to go in one of either those two directions for 24 and 25. And I don't think in when it comes to Big Ten and the SEC throwing their weight around, I think they're going to throw their weight around more on the money aspect than the access aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But that is just my take on it. What is your take on that?
I don't think that they're going to push the G5 out. I don't think that that's really their intention at all, nor do I think that that's good. But like you're saying, I do definitely think in the end it's about the amount of payout they get.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see an awful lot of leveraging comments, though, right? Like a lot of talk that's supposed to scare and frighten a little bit, like this talk about P2. Like it's like we could do this, don't make us do this type of a thing,
Yeah.
But I think that's going on, and so right now, just to everyone to kind of put your filters on, realize that there's a whole lot of gamesmanship going on right now, and some of what being said might be true, but some of it, they're speaking through proxies at each other, and they're trying to get their donors to be a little worried. They want pressure to come from underneath. There's a...
What did you think of Mark Coyle's words?
Oh, that was like pretty direct.
Yeah, I think so.
But
Yeah,
I didn't even think to talk about it because you just nailed it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how anyone could take it be anywhere other than they're looking at ACC schools.
yeah, yeah.
Is that meant to threaten them? Is it meant to push those? That thing, it was said yesterday, so it's not in regards to the CFP thing being held up. I don't know the angle, but it's pretty clear where it was directed.
Yeah. I think it's clear, and I don't think we needed Mark Coyle to say what he said, but I think it's real clear that at least on a monthly deal, Big Ten's talking about it, right? They're always doing a cost-benefit analysis. They did that through these months in regards to Oregon and Washington. There was a number there that they knew that they would make a deal. You know what I'm saying? If a scenario happened to where Oregon and Washington would become available at a certain number, that's what they were willing to do, and it happened, right? It happened. And I think they're doing the same thing with ACC schools. If a certain scenario happens, if a Florida State gets a settlement, if a bunch of schools ask ACC what is the number, something of an implosion happens, they're doing Big Ten, Mark Coyle, they're all in these meetings going, okay, let's see, it would go this way, it would go that way, Notre Dame plus somebody, or we add 6, blah, 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 blah. Network, communication, valuation. I think all that is going on, just like it did with Oregon and Washington. I think it's happening on a little bit bigger scale, a little bit more down the road, but I think it's active conversations, continued active conversations internally to the point, Immaculate, we're very cautious. One of the least communicative athletic directors in the country, one who doesn't win any interviews, doesn't do good in he's not the talker in the Big Ten. He's not the newsmaker. He's the manager. And when he says this, wow, it's big. That is something you and I agree on. No question about it.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't mincing words. It wasn't like flipping it into a larger conversation. It was pretty much, I don't see us being done, so we're not done.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can look at that and find a different angle out of what he said. It's pretty much right in your face. Like, oh, I'm not, privy to things. Like, no, you are. You're just, maybe doing a little. This is an attempt to do a little cover fire, but like you said, this isn't what he's really comfortable in doing. So it was kind of, well, let's just say it missed.
Yeah.
The cover fire missed.
Yeah.
The rest of it was dead on.
All righty, you all fired up for tomorrow night?
Oh, yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that game, and appreciate you bringing up our show. And I was calling also to say, you haven't been on in a little while. We might have to see you stop by again sometime.
Yeah, I will. It's almost impossible for me to schedule even this show. Yeah. So
I get you.
It's now I knew. Well, no, I didn't even know what time I was going to go on today. But one of my sisters decided to stay over for tonight to take care of my parents. So I knew I could do like a 4 to 6 Central Time. So it's one of those things. It's an hour by hour trying to figure out a schedule. And that's how this show is run. And I know it's not conducive, right, to growing a college football YouTube channel. But I'm very thankful that the PATC community hangs with me and catches me when they can and catches the replay of the show, and I appreciate that. So, yeah, I'll get on you guys' show again as soon as I possibly can.
Sounds great, man. Really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you again. Have yourself a great day. Great show as always.
Go Gophers tomorrow night. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Good luck with that.
I want to talk about my Golden Gophers. Even though this is a national college football show, I don't talk much about my Gophers. Tomorrow night, 8th and Kaliakmanis, the Greek Rifle. What are we going to see? Are we going to see the brilliance of last year against the Wisconsin Badgers when he won in Madison? Or Is he going to get a little?
Mullen.
Mullen Vision's on the line. Or is Ethan Cadillac Man? It's going to be a little loosey-goosey. Some bad decisions. Is he going to make them again in the opening day of 2023? I am all fired up. I'm a little nervous, of course. The back seven, we have so many question marks in the back seven of the defense. But we do have a defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, who's going to be a head coach somewhere next year. Can he get this defensive unit up and running at the start of the season? We're going to find out tomorrow night. Mr. Buckeye is on the line. What's going on, sir?
Well, I think Minnesota will do fine tomorrow because I think Matt Rule and Nebraska in general is overrated, Greg.
All right.
I don't think you have to worry about it. I do. I think Matt Rule, all hype. He's never done anything at a power program. So, and we saw how well he did in Carolina. So,
well,
I don't think you have anything to worry about there.
Now, to be fair, Matt Rule did a great job at Baylor and at Temple, right?
Yeah, but he only had one season of success at both of them, Greg. I mean, his resume is so incomplete when compared to other coaches.
All right.
Nebraska fans have basically decided that this man is the second coming of Tom Osborne already. I'm just saying, I'd like to see a little better resume if I'm going to start crowning people.
All right.
Like a resume like Luke Fickell,
Yeah.
Wisconsin hired Luke Fickell, who took the only G5 team to the playoff. I mean, had consistent success at Cincinnati. That's a resume. That's a resume.
Yeah, it is.
Found it interesting that Jim Phillips didn't bother to attend the college football playoff meeting. But then again, I was happy to see that the real ACC commissioner, Jack Swarbrick, was there in person, making sure he handled all the business for the Notre Dame conference. Very, very fascinating stuff. I don't think that anybody really needs to move for 2024 and 2025. I think the SEC, the big, all the A5s can just say, let's wait until 2026. Then we'll figure out where we're going. There's no reason to rush to 7-5 and give up too much leverage at this point. You can wait.
Okay.
It's 2 years. You can wait.
Okay. So you're saying 6+6, the autonomy 4 conference should just be okay with 6+6. Don't lose any leverage for 2026 and beyond. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I think you pause for 2024, 2025, let it play out. 2026, then you can start applying pressure and get the leverage you want to get the accomplishment. I think in 2026 you move the conference membership be a requirement to participate in the college football playoff, and I believe there should be a 9 minimum conference games played in order to be in the college football playoff. I don't think it's fair at all to have it where you're having the SEC only play 8 conference games, the Big's playing 9, the Big 12's playing 9. Notre Dame's not a member of a conference and gets to schedule 5 games independently of a conference. So I think that the best thing for all parties, the G5 included, is to wait until 2026 to work this out. And if you can't work something out, well, then you have to go another way. But, obviously, it would be preferable not to go the other way. It'd be preferable if everybody could come up with a solution that is fair and equitable to all parties that are conference members.
All righty, that's all sounds good to me. Buckeyes, Hoosiers. I think the Buckeyes are pretty healthy, correct?
Yeah, we don't have anybody really banged up at the moment. So,
Yep.
Offensive line is still a question mark.
Yeah. Now, one of the new things here is, for example, Gophers, Cornhuskers play 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm going to be on my computer. I'm going to be on my phone. I'm going to be getting phone calls. I'm going to be calling people all in and around the injury report that has to come out 2 hours prior to kickoff for conference games. So that is something that everyone's going to be doing now. 2 hours before every Big Ten conference game, we're all going to be looking at that injury report that has to be delivered. My only question on that is that official? Have they made that official at the beginning of this season? I don't know about that, but that's the goal for them to do that in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I don't know, Greg, but you know what happened on this day in 2007?
2007, August 30th. The Minnesota Golden Gophers upset the Ohio State Buckeyes?
No, it was the launch of the Big Ten Network.
Oh, yes.
That where everybody in Ohio was trying to find hotels and traveling because their cable provider didn't have it yet.
Yes.
Just wanted to put that out there today. In 2007, the Big Ten Conference took a leap of faith on itself, believed in itself, and changed the landscape of college football.
Yes, they did. Mark Silverman, Jim Delaney,
Bob Thompson.
Yes.
And it was a great day to be a part of the Legends and Leaders divisions that were terrible.
Yeah.
So,
and
with that, Greg.
And by the way, the Ohio State Buckeyes, Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan State, all the Big Ten teams did not get any money back from the Big Ten for a handful of years. The Buckeyes did not get a check from the Big Ten Network. All that money that was going to go to the Buckeyes, they had to put it back to the conference to pay for the conference to pay Fox Sports because they were the sugar daddy of creating the Big Ten Network. So every Big Ten team took a hit financially for the first 4 or 5 years of the network. Just to put that out there.
That's right. We invested in ourselves, Greg, and with this past year's media deal, you see that it has paid off in dividends. So anybody in the ACC, you know, I think the choice is pretty clear where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you with that, Greg. Go Buckeyes.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Go Buckeyes. Great call, Monavision, once again. Now, Ted Evans puts down in the chat, bow down, go Dogs. I wonder if Ted Evans knows that I sang the Washington Fight song last year. I probably should have sang it when it was official that Washington became a Big Ten member. It's a very unique song. It starts with a minor chord. Bow down to Washington. Bow down to Washington. I'm probably not going to remember this. Mighty are the men who wear the purple and the gold. Joyfully we welcome within the victor's fold. We will carve out their name in the Hall of Fame to preserve the memory of our devotion. So heaven help the foes of Washington. They're trembling at the feet of mighty Washington. Our boys are there with bells. Their fighting blood excels. It's harder to push them over the line than past the Darnells. So victory's the cry of Washington. Our leather lungs together with the rah, rah, rah. And over the land, the loyal band will sing the glory of Washington forever. There it is. Bow down to Washington. That's pretty good. I haven't done that song in a long, long time. Very unique fighting song. I saw that comment from Ted Evans. I had flash memories of me trying to sing that song. Okay. That's doing DS one shot. I've been married 15 years. I'm willing to negotiate my deal. Lordy, lordy. Holy smokes. Okay. Jared Jones. Okay, we got to kick Washington out now. Daniel, now do the Wisconsin fight song. Yeah, it's going to take some money for me to do the Wisconsin fight song. I did the Iowa Hawkeyes fight song. I had to do that last year. So, that's right, Cameron B. I still owe you the Jayhawk. I still have to sing. I gotta learn it and sing it. I'm going to get that done, Cameron B. I apologize. I haven't got to that yet. Thank you for your super chat. I'm a Jayhawk. I will get to that. Glory to Old Georgia. I did that last year. That's also a fight song I did last year. It goes to the same melody as what is that famous song? Glory, glory, hallelujah, whatever. I know it. I sang it before DS one shot. I'll probably have to do it again. I love before the fourth quarter, Wisconsin plays a jump around by House of Pain. You know, when the Gophers defeated Wisconsin 2 years ago in Minnesota at the end of the game when all the fans were on the field, the PA announcer flipped on jump around. So all the Gopher fans and the Gopher players were jumping up and down on the football field as we carried around the axe. Good point, Cornelius Green. Dave Revison, Mike Hall, Howard Griffith, Gary DiNardo have all been with the Big Ten Network since the launch of the network. Pretty good, Greg. That was all right. I mean, I haven't sang that forever. I don't know why I remember it, but it's very unique. Maybe that's why I remember how sort of the song goes. I'm sure I was off key for lots of it. What's wrong with me, Phil Port 76? I agree with Buckeye, Moen, and I'm a Michigan man. Yeah, I know. A lot of times I agree with Buckeye, Moen Vision as well, and I'm a Gopher. So, I don't know. He has that spell on us. He has that spell on us. Can I get it week 2 when we play the Big Ten contender, Illinois? I'll work on it, Cameron B. I'll work on it. My time is so limited to learn a new fight song, but I do owe you that. I do owe you that. I'm going to do as best I can. You actually sounded pretty good singing that, Greg. Thank you, Jared Jones. Usually, the comments are you sounded pretty bad, Greg, when I sing those songs. So maybe I'm getting better. Maybe at age 55, I'm finally hitting the correct notes when I sing at Peek Around the Corner. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so, Tony. My time has come and gone. I could hear this voice during Mass and it would make me take a triple take. Ted, I'm glad you enjoyed that. Now, my excuses, no practice. I just went in it cold. Washington going to be joining the Big Ten 2024. I'm going to be hearing that song more and more and more and more. It's a very unique song. They had a contest at the University of Washington, I want to say somewhere in the 1950s. And somebody, I don't know if it's a student at the school, wrote that song down with the music and everything. They had some sort of contest, and that's how they came up with Bow Down to Washington. Now, I could have the story wrong. And if I have the story wrong, I'm not trying to get the story wrong. But I think there was some contest. Someone wrote that song. The school used it, and they just keep using it over and over, year after year after year. There's always a story behind every fight song. Greg the Cooler went in cold. PJ Fleck will be talking to Joe Klatt in 30 minutes. Don't give him any secrets, PJ. Shh. Loose lips sink ships. Silence. Don't. Because you know what? During the game, Joe Klatt's going to be saying, this is what Coach Fleck told me. This is what Coach Fleck told me. Don't say anything. Don't say anything of value. Don't give any insight and just PJ Fleck, sometimes he wants to talk too much. Battle Hymn of the Republic. Man, I couldn't get that in my head. Yeah, Georgia fight song goes with the same music as the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Call from
JD.
JD, the phone line is yours. What's going on, sir?
How you doing, sir?
Good. What's going on? What's happening?
I was just calling about football this time.
Got it. Beautiful.
So, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at FSU, and I just, as far as realignment, and right now I'm just going to keep my mouth shut on all that.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to keep your.
Well.
We don't want you to keep your mouth shut on that.
We've heard some good things, but I want to just, let's just wait till this time next week. And I'm not making an announcement this time.
Got it. Nope. I hear you.
I'm saying is that things are supposedly going in a very good direction, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So
could you possibly give us more information next week?
Possibly.
Okay, that's all I can ask.
I don't think all those timelines are exact. I think things are moving forward. You think it's going to happen in a certain time frame, and then things get prolonged because the goal is you got to get your exit costs down. And if that means you got to stretch it out another month to get your exit costs down, you're going to.
Okay.
And if it's another 2 months, is it going to go on another year? No, I don't see that. I so many of the insiders they keep talking about pay attention in September. And September may come and go and it doesn't happen, but they just say pay attention in September.
Okay.
So we'll just see what happens. And that doesn't necessarily mean, well, I'm going to stop.
No, that's okay. But please keep your phone line open to us here at Peek Around the Corner. Give us, you want to wait next week, that's fine. The week after that, that's fine. But you please keep talking to us, okay, sir?
Well, I appreciate it.
Yep.
And I think what's going on is there's a lot that's happening. There's a lot that's going on that's out of the public eye. And when it's brought out into the public eye, it could even be farther down the road. But anyway, you got to... Some of the sources that you had before, they've just kind of gotten tight-lipped. Oh, they're extremely positive. They're just not saying. They're just not talking.
Yeah.
And so they're keeping everything close to the vest. But anyway, back to my Knowles. I think you made a great pick because
you got it, baby. Yep.
Everybody, the benefit that the FSU fan base has is the FSU media gets to go to every practice and watch every practice.
Huge access.
They get to record part of the practice. Now, during the season, they get to go to the first 2 to 3 practices a week, and then after that, they don't get to go. But that 4 or 5 year slump for FSU, it humbled us to the aspect of, we can't just play homer or we're automatically going to be contenders just because we're FSU. Well, it doesn't always work out that way. And the fan base in general is very practical. I think the team could be even so much better than what most people realize.
I do too.
And you know, our offense, except for quarterback, and I'm not saying it's gonna happen, could potentially be better than the 2013 team. And because at wide receiver, you got to think about this. Our two starting wide receivers
Keontae Coleman, Johnny Wilson.
Yes, sir. And the tight end, Jaheim Bell, he used to play. He was at South Carolina.
Yeah.
He was like the number 3 tight end in the SEC.
Yes, sir.
He's an H-back tight end. You've got Trey Benson, plus right behind Benson, you got 3 other guys that are almost as good as he is.
Yeah.
At running back. You've got every offensive piece. Now you've got Destin Hill, who's popped in. We thought he was a unicorn. We thought he wasn't real. Now he's going to start. Yeah. And when I say real, if you know the whole story behind it, and he was supposed to be in the class 2 years ago. For some reason he didn't make it, and then he shows up, and he's a 20-year-old grown man that's taken the slot position. I mean, he's taken the number 3 wide receiver position. Then you've got all the other pieces behind it. The only thing that we don't have as much depth in is a quarterback, but we have capable quarterbacks. And an offensive line, we're going to rotate 8 to 9 offensive linemen. Not just, play the starting 5. We're going to rotate 8 or 9. We might have 10 or 12 that can play. And the defensive line, you got Jared Verse, you got Patrick Payton, Braden Fisk has come in. He's wreaking havoc. And then, if we can get Darrell Jackson to get cleared, Darrell Jackson, if he gets cleared to play, he might be a first rounder.
Yeah.
They love it. Here's the thing. If everybody eligible to go to, if we have just a magical season, okay, and everybody plays to, and I know that's a big if,
yeah,
but if everybody plays to their peak levels, you have up to 17 guys that could get drafted. Now, will some of them stay? Of course they will. Will everybody have as great a season as you expect? No. But I'm going to tell you about Norvell's teams. He usually can get his guys to play up to their potential. And, this might sound like a homer statement, and I know I'm a very practical person. Anybody that knows me, and I'm a straight shooter. I think Norvell's easily a top 3 coach in the country. Should he be ranked there now? I mean, top 5 and maybe top 3 or 4. Should he be ranked there today? No. He's got to prove it first. Mm-hmm. And people that say Clemson should be the favorite in the conference, I get it. I mean, we can look at paper all day long.
Yeah.
But it's I can tell you've done a deep dive. You've looked at the roster.
I love Florida State this year. I'm glad of this phone call because everyone's tired of me hyping Florida State Seminoles this year. So I'm glad someone else finally is doing it on this channel. I am I don't mean to interrupt your call, but just take Johnny Wilson for just one example.
Sure.
The cat is just scratching the surface. Like, he's not even, maybe he's developed this year, fully developed, right? Where
he's gained 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason.
Yeah.
His routes are way cleaner than they were last year.
Yeah.
And guess what? Keon Coleman, the guy they brought in from Michigan State.
I know him.
They say he will probably be he'll probably be your number 1 wide receiver.
He's a player. He's a player. When Florida State got him, my jaw hit the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
My belly hit the floor, and it caused an earthquake here in Minnesota.
Well, it's just. I fully expect. Now, again, I can go on paper and I can tell you why FSU is going to go 12-0 or they're going to go 15-0.
Yeah.
Things happen. What I don't know is I don't know how good Georgia is. I don't know how good Bama is. I don't know how good Ohio State is. Everybody's replacing the quarterbacks. I know what we have at quarterback.
Yeah.
And I know that in camp he has been spectacular, apparently, and he has taken the reins of being the leader. And it just now, and that's the thing is that when I talk about FSU media, they will sit back and they're like, well, we're probably not as good as Georgia. We're probably not as good as Bama. We're probably not as good as Ohio State. And then they're like, probably seal in as a college football playoff. And then they'll start going position group by position group, and they're like, wow, we're top 5 in almost every position group except for linebacker and defensive back. And apparently in camp, the defensive backs have played significantly better. We hired Patrick Surtain as our defensive back coach. His son's probably the number 1 cornerback in the country, and Patrick Surtain was the I don't know, Surtain or Surtain. He was a highly sought after coach. He's already hit it on the recruiting trail. We are a top 5. We have a top 5 recruiting class coming in. We're going to be looking better for 2025 and 2026. But he's just got them playing so much more aggressive. That was the issue we had, is that we weren't getting great coaching in the secondary last year. We just weren't. And, luckily the gentleman that was back there, he went ahead and took another position somewhere else. But now just apparently the defensive backfield is playing so much better. Is our defense 2013 defense? No, it's not. But it may not have to be.
Yeah.
In today's college football, if you score 30-plus points a game, just as long as your defense just holds, opponents to the low to mid-20s, you're going to win most every game.
When Florida State went through that slump, 5-7-year slump, whatever, it reminded me a lot of what Penn State went through. In that, and I don't know what the reason it was for. You let me know. But for whatever reason, Florida State and Penn State, but Florida State could not maintain a decent offensive line. Correct?
Haven't had a decent offensive line in 10 years, and then the 8 to 10 years, and even then they had a hard time getting good offensive line.
And same thing with Penn State. You guys are like sisters to each other when it comes to having. That's the reason Penn State cannot get over the Michigan Buckeyes hurdle is because of their O-line. Now, I think they've got it solved. They got the best or the second best left tackle in the game. I think they're going to be fine there. But again, Florida State's offensive line this year, I've heard that they are ready. Like you just mentioned early in the phone call, they're deep, they're ready. That's not going to be the problem for the Seminoles in 2023.
Will they be the best offensive line in the country? No. Will they be top 5? Yes. Will they be the deepest offensive line? Yes. They have more options. The only thing they're not deep at is at center. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, a good guy, Maurice Smith, he's going to be starting at center. He's about 290 pounds. He's not a big guy. He's just really good. They've been trying to replace him, and he keeps fighting everybody off. And that's the only places, like I said, they're a little thin at center. They got guys that can play there, but for some reason they have snapping issues. And Alex Atkins is a fantastic coach. And he's our offensive line and then offensive coordinator. Mike Norvell calls the plays. And one of the reasons I'm so bullish is when Mike took the job, he was known as one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. He just wasn't a big name. Well, the first couple of years, he was letting Kenny Dillingham call the plays, and Kenny did a fine job. You saw last year when Mike started making the calls, and it was just significantly better. But the reason, like I said, last year FSU, everybody goes back to that 3-game slump in the middle of the season. We were so thin in defensive line last year. Fabian Lovett and Robert Cooper got hurt in the first game. Mm-hmm. Fabian Lovett, after the LSU game, didn't play again until after the Clemson game. He didn't play again. He didn't play in the Oklahoma game, and he was our best defensive lineman. Robert Cooper, he more or less lined up at nose most of the time, but he was basically playing with one arm. He had a hurt shoulder the entire year. And everybody else we had was just young or coming off of injury. So we just weren't getting the type of passers. And then Jared Verse was hurt for a lot of the year. And so we were real thin there. Didn't play well those 3 games. We shouldn't have won the Clemson game. They beat us. They did. They just beat us. And then Wake Forest beat us. If we'd have played Wake Forest at the end of the season, we'd have blown them out of the stadium.
Yeah.
But they beat us. It is what it is. NC State, no, sir. No, that one still that'll eat at you for 10 years. You should have won that. But yes, sir, I can go top to bottom, but you're absolutely correct as far as I think. Now, granted, they may prove me wrong and not come out and play a great game.
It's going to be a great game. Great night. Can't wait.
Better than LSU? I think they're better than LSU.
I love LSU this year. I just love Florida State Seminoles just a little more. Just a little more. I love both teams. I love LSU. I think LSU's going to the SEC championship game once again against Georgia. I think they're going to nip Alabama like they did last year in overtime. So I love LSU. So this is not a knock against the Tigers. This is just Florida State's time once again to beat LSU and to go on and win the ACC championship.
Sure.
All right. I appreciate the phone call. I got some. Yep. What?
I was just saying I'm probably taking too much of your time.
Nope.
I'll call in another time and I'll tell you why FSU had that 4-year slump and all the causes, and then why they're heading back to prominence again.
Beautiful.
Granted, prominence is just stay top 5 every year.
Got it. Got it. Appreciate it, sir.
Anyway,
great phone call. You. Call again, JT, Mr. Seminole, PATC. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful phone call by PATC's Mr. Seminole, JD, giving us the lowdown on the Florida State Seminoles. And I hope I did not freeze the Seminoles. I hope Greg the Cooler did not freeze out the Seminoles' chances to beat LSU Sunday night. Jared Jones, thanks you once again for your generosity to this channel. I appreciate it so very much. Amazing show as always, Godfather. You know, Jared Jones, you know what makes this show amazing is the callers, is the PATC community. Look at that call that we just had. Look at that call we just had. I can't make that call. I can't talk about the Seminoles that way. I can't talk about the Buckeyes the way the Buckeye fans do when they call this channel. So the person that learns most about college football on this channel is me, the host. Even though I like to think that I know something, not compared to the PATC community. So yeah, that call was amazing. Thank you, Jared Jones, for your continued generosity to this channel. Cornelius Green, yes, Fowler and Herb Street doing LSU Florida State game on Sunday night. I am all fired up. I'm all fired up for Sunday Night Football. LSU Tigers versus the Florida State Seminoles. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We're going to close it up here. We're going to close it up for today. We've been on almost for 2 hours. I appreciate you all for coming in. I appreciate your donations, your phone calls, your friendship, your passion for this pageantry that we call college football. I thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, before you leave, please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button if you like our content, and share this video across the social media platforms. We are Peek Around the Corner. It's college football. It's week 1. Tomorrow night, watch party. 30 minutes before the Golden Gophers and the Cornhuskers kick off. We are on here live, 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central Time. We're going to be keeping an eye on the Utah Utes game versus the Florida Gators, but it's watch party. The Minnesota Golden Gophers versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Matt Rule versus PJ Fleck. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Just don't ask me. Just don't ask me who's going to be the offensive coordinator for the Gophers. Who is actually calling the plays, because we still don't know if it's Matt Simon or Greg Harbaugh. That is unbelievable, but we still don't know who's going to actually call the plays. PJ Fleck's not letting anybody know until after the game. Holy smokes. I'm already getting nervous. I'm being overcome with Gopher anxiety. So, stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner until tomorrow night. We do that live watch party. Stick with us here until next time. From everybody at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.